All right, now that you've used your Snap feature on the Windows 7 to allow us to see both website screens, now we're going to sign into Google to access the documents. If you open your web browser and go to the Google web page, you would want to click the Sign In button up here. I'm going to sign in, but if you notice below the sign in box, it also says create an account now. You can create a username and password there if you do not have a Google account already. Now that I'm signed in, I'll go to More, click down, and find Google Documents. My Google Documents opens, and you notice that I have several documents from this year in my Google Docs homepage. If I want to create a new document, I go to Create New. And for this purpose, I'm going to use a spreadsheet because they have many functions that allows me to monitor the behaviors in my classroom using numbers. It allows me to form measurable goals and objectives that way. Up pops a Google spreadsheet. From here, we want to include some student info. Since I like to include labels and data, for right now I am going to skip over several columns over to H, and I'm going to include my student info. As you are including your student info, it does say student name. However, it will prompt you to autosave as well. So let's start autosaving. First, we need to rename our spreadsheet. So I'm going to say Behavior Monitoring Chart. Okay. Now that we have our student info, we're also going to want to include our student's name. However, for purposes of this training module and to ensure that you've created your Google document as an artifact, I would like you to save inputting your student's name that you're designing this particular behavior monitoring chart for until you are actually using it in the classroom setting. That way I know that you created the artifact, the Google spreadsheet, and we are adhering to the laws of FERPA. Okay, so now that we have our student name, we also want to formulate a goal. We also like to formulate an objective. And finally, we would like to include a reward for achievement of the goal. All right, so for our purposes, I'm going to create a goal about I'm going to go to the next, here we go, goal. I would like to increase on-task behavior. Our objective I'm going to target would be to 8 out of 10 times the child will be on task for 10 minutes. So 8 out of 10 times the student will be on task for 10 minutes. Now, 8 out of 10 times, could we be more specific? Let's say trials. Because I don't expect people to watch them throughout the day every 10 minutes to see if he's on task. So we're just going to do some trials throughout the day and the content areas. All right, now that I have my objective, I'm going to scroll down and check out my reward for achievement. So if the student is able to achieve the objective, his reward for achievement will be 5 minutes extra recess. Okay? So now that I have my reward, my goals for achievement, my objective, you know what? I kind of like this to all be on one line. So I'm going to open my screen a little further. I am going to widen my column so it's all nicely and neatly in one line. And there is all my student information. At this point, if you noticed, I was going to go and save, but obviously it was saved seconds ago. Alright, I'm going to minimize it again so I can see my wiki page. Now I'm going to head over. My next piece is to include labels. So, my first column, I'm going to include the date. Now, along with the date, the spreadsheet in Google Docs allows you to format certain areas. So, the first item in the format drop-down menu is number. For this one, I want to include the date, so I'm going to click on date. Now, when I write the date, let's see. Looks like my first date is 8/29/2011. It inputs it as the date, as the function we chose to insert. Okay? So now let's go to our next column, which would be subject areas. In the elementary school setting, we have reading, math, content areas such as science, social studies, or health, word study, and finally, language. So if we look at our goal and objective, I have 5 content areas, okay? 5 curriculum areas. And 5 times 2 would be 10. So I am expecting this student to be on task for 10 minutes twice during that specific content area. So he can either score a 0, a 1, or a 2. So let's say during this day he scores a 1. And then in math, he really likes math, so he scores a 2. He was on task twice during that period. In the content area, we were studying history, so he really liked that, so he scored another 2. In the word study area, he's not very interested in word study, so he scored a 0. And lastly, in language, he scored a 1. Okay, so that was his day on August 29th, 2011. Now in column G, I'd like to see if he made his goal or not. So in column G, I am going to write the sum. Now, in order to format this entire column, what you're going to do is you're going to select the first cell, which is G2, and I'm going to insert in G2 a function. I'm going to select sum. The sum I would like to include would be the cell B2, C2, D2, E2, and F2. But you do not need to type all those in. All we have to do is type B2 colon F2. And let's see if we got the sum. Yep, so he scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points on August 29th. Doesn't look like he made his goal, so let's see how he did the next day. Let's input his information. So first of all, our next date is August 30th, so 8/30/2011. All right. And in reading, he scored a 2. He was really on task today. In math, he scored a 2. In content area, he just scored a 0. He was really not interested in social studies today. In Word study, he stepped it up a little. He got a 1. And lastly, in language, he scored a 2 again. So, in order to get the sum in this column, all we would have to do is copy the formatting for that. Okay? And what we would do is then, by right-clicking, we would hit paste. Okay? And it automatically gets the sum of our row. All right, now that we have the sum for 2 rows, let's input the information for our next row. Looks like we have 8, 31, 2011. Today he did really well. He got 2s in all areas. Now, do you remember how to format the sum page? All we have to do is right-click, copy, and paste the formatting into our cell. And there we are. Now, if we don't want to show all of our formulas, we can click Show All Formulas. And if we don't want to see the formula, we'd actually like to see the sum, click it again. Okay? All right. You go ahead and fill in the information for your 2 last dates, okay? And then we'll get back together in a minute.